Can you define both of those words?
Yeah.
And the thing that I found really striking is, I think I heard you say that satisfaction in either dynamic there, polyamory or monogamy, is roughly the same. Because I thought people in monogamous relationships were supposed to be way more happy than people that are in polyamorous relationships.
No, not at all. So monogamy is a relationship state where there are two people who are... We have to define two sorts of monogamy. There's sexual monogamy. And that is you are exclusive to that other person. Sexually, you have sex with nobody else. And there is social monogamy. And that is you live with that person exclusively. So within the UK... most people, let's say if they have children, are socially monogamous. They live in a household with their children with two people in it. Whereas sexual monogamy, you can be socially monogamous and not sexually monogamous. So they're two different things. But monogamy, if we talk about it in sort of lay terms, is two people who are exclusive to each other in terms of love, in terms of sex, and in terms of possibly living together. Monogamy itself is a social construct, mostly. We are not a monogamous species. There are, in fact, very few monogamous species in the world. Maybe, I think I read a book the other day that says something like 0.002% of the animals on this planet are monogamous. Because what you will see in the wild and what you see mostly with humans is social monogamy. They live together. But we know that the infidelity rate sits generally at around 50%. So 50% of those households are not sexually monogamous. And in fact, from an evolutionary point of view, being sexually monogamous is a really quite bad idea because you are limiting yourself to a very narrow gene pool. And that's why there are very few creatures in the world that are truly sexually monogamous. When I was doing my master's, my professor studied gibbons. Gibbons at the time were known to be the monogamous ape. And he did a really longitudinal study, and he was the first to realise that no, they weren't. They were all sneaking off and doing it behind the rock with somebody else. But they were living together. But the female was going to find some better genes somewhere else. This guy, brilliant parent, not great genes. I'm going to go behind a rock and mate with this really good-looking gibbon over here because I'm going to get some good genes, and then he's going to raise the kid. And the guy is like, well, I'm obviously going to have offspring here, but actually, mating with another female is not particularly costly to me, so I'll just go and do that over there, and let's hope she can raise them on her own, or maybe her partner will raise them for me. So there are very few. So we have monogamy mainly in the West because it's a socially prescribed form of organisation. And it was imposed because it is a form of control. It mainly sits in terms of rules, particularly in religion, but also there are many legal rules. For example, in Britain, you can't have two marriages, you can't be a bigamist. And it's about making everybody control. Because if we all just gave in constantly to precisely what our drives were saying, there'd be kind of chaos. And those in power wouldn't be able to predict what anybody is going to do, because actually I'm just going to go, I feel sexually attracted to whoever that is over there, I'm going to go mate with them, but I'm going to come back and live here, but then I've got a kid over there, and it's all really, really confusing. So over time, when civilization first arose, the more complex we got, and as we started to live together in cities, those in control were like, okay, I really need to be able to predict what these lesser beings are going to do. So I'm going to impose monogamy. You can only live with one person and basically have sex with one person. Nobody actually ever only had sex with one person, but we're going to look like we do. And those are the rules. And that's why we have legitimacy rules about children and inheritance and all that kind of thing, because it maintains control. So monogamy is, simply a social construct. It's not something that we've biologically evolved to do. And we know that part, there are many countries in the world where monogamy isn't what is prescribed.
How are those cultures getting on, the ones that aren't monogamous?
Fine.
What cultures are those?
So you tend to get, so for example, in certain religions, so in certain forms of Islam, for example, men can have many wives. There are certain tribes which exist within sort of South America and in certain areas of Africa where you can have many wives. For example, there are some groups in Nepal, in the Himalayas, where we have what's known as polyandry. So one woman has many husbands. Usually, the reason why these different groupings evolved, like monogamy, is it's something to do with economics generally. So for example, in Nepal, in these areas, because they still have male inheritance of land, if, let's say we've got a family farm and there's 5 brothers, if all of those 5 brothers split the inheritance, then that farm would become uneconomic. You wouldn't be able to farm it and make money. So over time, what's evolved is one woman will marry all the brothers so that when they inherit the farm, it will carry on passing down, essentially.
So if it goes against our evolutionary design to be in monogamous relationships, doesn't that mean that there's a lot of people who are struggling against their
Absolutely. And that's why we have a reasonably high rate of people who have extramarital affairs. It's also why people who are polyamorous or indeed have open relationships say, actually, it's the more truthful way of being human. Because all they're doing is following their drives. And they actually believe that it's more moral. Because if you put forward a monogamous front and you have an affair, you are lying to people. You are keeping a secret from people you profess to love. Whereas if you're polyamorous or you're in an open relationship, you're actually openly saying, this is my drive, this is the reality, and I'm being truthful with everybody about it. So you can enter a relationship with me or not on the basis of truth. And that's what a lot of polyamorous people particularly will argue, is that they're really representing what is, for most people, an ancestral state. Polyamory is difficult because, unlike open relationships such as swinging or being open, we call them consensual non-monogamy, that's just based on sex. So you're not spreading your love relationship, that emotional investment, that emotional intimacy amongst more than one person. Polyamory is being open and having several sexual partners and also having several emotionally intimate relationships at the same time. And I think people struggle more with that because of the issues of jealousy and the fact that that goes quite strongly against even our social ideas about monogamy, where we all sort of live in pairs.
I've got a friend of mine that's secretly in an open polyamorous relationship, basically where there's two couples and they are together.
Yeah.